Most people think winning means beating someone else. They think it means getting the promotion, winning the argument, or coming out on top. But what if I told you that the people who win the most in life, the ones who stay calm when everything is falling apart, the ones who never seem to break, they're not playing the game you think they're playing. There is a way to train yourself so that no matter what life throws at you, loss, failure, betrayal, pain, you always come out stronger. And it has nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room, or the strongest, or the luckiest. It has everything to do with something most people completely ignore. Stay with me, because by the end of this you will see life differently. There is an ancient idea, one that has existed for thousands of years, that says the only true battlefield is the one inside you. Not the office, not the relationship, not the world out there, inside. And the person who masters that inner world, they cannot be defeated, not really, not in any way that truly matters. This is not a motivational speech. This is not about pumping yourself up and feeling good for 5 minutes. This is about a deep, quiet kind of strength, the kind that builds slowly like a mountain, the kind that doesn't shake when the storm comes. We are going to walk through 8 teachings today, 8 ways to train yourself to always win, no matter what situation you face. These are not new ideas. They are old wisdom, passed down through centuries, now more needed than ever. Let's begin. The mountain does not argue with the wind. Here is the first thing you need to understand. Most of your suffering, not all of it, but most of it, comes from one single habit. Just one. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The habit is this: fighting what you cannot control. Think about the last time something made you really angry. Not just a little annoyed, but genuinely, deeply angry. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic and didn't even look back. Maybe someone said something unfair about you behind your back and it got back to you. Maybe a plan you worked really hard on fell apart at the last second, through no fault of your own. Maybe someone you trusted let you down. What did you do when that happened? Be honest. You resisted it. You argued with it inside your head. You played it back over and over again like a movie you couldn't stop watching. You imagined what you should have said. You thought about how wrong it was. You wished it had gone differently. In other words, you fought reality. And here is the painful truth that nobody wants to hear. Reality always wins that fight. Always, without exception. Not once in the entire history of human beings has someone been angry enough, or stubborn enough, or loud enough to change something that has already happened. The thing happened. It is done. And yet we spend hours, sometimes days, sometimes years, fighting it in our minds, replaying it, resenting it, carrying it with us everywhere we go like a heavy bag that we refuse to put down. Now think about a mountain, a real mountain, tall, solid, ancient. The wind blows against it every single day, sometimes soft breezes, sometimes violent storms that shake everything around it. Does the mountain argue with the wind? Does it get frustrated? Does it wish the wind would stop? Does it spend its energy pushing back against every gust? No. The mountain just stands, completely still, completely present, not because it is weak and not because it doesn't feel the wind, but because it understands something that most people never do. The wind is the wind. It will blow whether the mountain likes it or not. And after 1,000 years of that wind blowing, after 1,000 years of storms and cold and pressure, the mountain is still there, exactly where it has always been. Undefeated. That is the first training, and it starts with a very simple but very powerful practice. Learning to separate what is inside your circle of control from what is outside of it. This is not a complicated idea, but most people have never truly sat with it. So let's be very clear about what belongs to you and what does not. What belongs to you? Your opinions, your choices, your effort, the way you respond to things, the values you hold, what you give your attention to, what you decide to do with the time you have. These things are yours, fully yours. No one can take them from you without your permission. What does not belong to you? Other people's words, other people's opinions of you, the weather, the economy, what happened yesterday, what someone else decided to do, how a situation turned out despite your best efforts. These things are not yours to control. They never were. And the sooner you stop treating them as if they are yours to fix, the sooner something incredible starts to happen. When you stop fighting what you cannot change, you get your energy back. Think about how much mental energy you spend every single day on things that are completely outside your control. The news, what that person thinks of you, the traffic, the argument that happened 2 weeks ago that you keep replaying, the unfair thing that your boss did, the way the economy is going. If you could add all of that up, all of that mental and emotional energy spent on things you have zero control over, it would be staggering. It would probably be most of your energy, most of your day, and all of it is wasted. Not because those things don't matter, but because your resistance to them changes absolutely nothing about them. The moment you genuinely accept this, not just intellectually agree with it, but feel it in your body, in your chest, in the way you move through your day, all of that energy comes flooding back to you, like a river that was being blocked suddenly finding its path again. And now you have something incredibly valuable: attention, focus, energy, all of it available to be used for the things that actually matter, the things that are yours to change, your habits, your relationships, your work, your mind, your character. This is not the same as giving up. I want to be very clear about that because a lot of people confuse acceptance with surrender. They think that if you stop fighting something, it means you are okay with it, that you are weak, but that is the opposite of what this is. This is strategic. This is intelligent. This is what the strongest people in history have always known. You do not waste your strength on battles you cannot win. You save it for the battles that are yours to fight. The person who learns this stops being drained by the world. They stop leaking energy through resentment and frustration and helpless anger. They become, over time, like the mountain, steady, present, calm in ways that other people find difficult to understand. Because while everyone else is being blown around by every piece of news, every opinion, every unexpected change, this person is just standing, breathing, thinking clearly, choosing their next move. The wind will always blow. Life will always bring things you did not plan for and do not want. That is not going to change. The only thing that can change is wet. You stand still in the face of it, or exhaust yourself fighting something that was never yours to fight. The mountain does not argue with the wind, and either should you. The clearer your mind, the sharper your sword. The second teaching is about the mind, specifically about what is happening to your mind right now, in the world we live in today, and what it is costing you without you even realizing it. We live in a time of constant noise, not just sound, though there is plenty of that, but mental noise. Information coming at you from every direction, every second of every day. Notifications on your phone, headlines designed to make you feel scared or outraged, social media feeds that never end, full of other people's opinions, other people's highlight reels, other people's arguments, news that updates itself before you have even finished reading the last update, ads, emails, messages, comparisons, drama, all of it arriving faster than any human being was ever built to process. Here is something worth thinking about. The average person today is consuming more information in a single day than someone living 100 years ago would have consumed in an entire month. Maybe more, and that information is not neutral. Every piece of it demands something from your mind. Attention, processing, reaction, emotional energy. Even when you are not consciously thinking about something you read or saw, your mind is still carrying it, still working on it somewhere in the background. Like too many programs running on a computer at the same time. Everything slows down, everything becomes less sharp, and when your mind is not sharp, you are not at your best, not even close. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a river, and you want to see the bottom. If the water is cloudy, full of mud, constantly moving, churned up by everything passing through, you cannot see anything below the surface. It all just looks dark and unclear. But if you let the water go still, if you stop disturbing it, if you just wait and let the mud settle, slowly, over time, the water becomes clear. And when it is clear, you can see all the way to the bottom. Every rock, every detail perfectly visible. Your mind is that river. And right now, for most people, the water is never still. It is always cloudy, always moving, always full of things that have been thrown into it. And because of that, they cannot see clearly. They cannot think clearly. They make decisions based on whatever emotion is loudest in the moment, rather than on wisdom. They react to things instead of responding to them. They miss what is right in front of them because they are too busy processing everything else. The gap between reacting and responding is one of the most important gaps in human life. Reacting means something happens and you immediately, automatically, without thinking, act. The anger comes and you say something you regret. The fear comes and you run from something you should face. The craving comes and you do something that goes against what you actually want for your life. Reacting is being on autopilot. It is being controlled by whatever force is strongest in the moment. Responding is different. Responding means something happens, and there is a pause, however small, between the event and your action. In that pause, you choose. You see the situation clearly. You consider what actually serves you. You act from a place of awareness rather than impulse. That pause, that tiny space between stimulus and response, is where your entire life is decided. And you can only find that space when your mind is clear enough to notice it. So the training is this: practice silence, real silence, not just turning off the music and sitting in a quiet room, though that is a start, but the deeper silence of not consuming, not filling every moment with input, not checking your phone the second you wake up, not putting on a podcast the moment you get in the car, not immediately reaching for distraction every time you feel even slightly uncomfortable or bored, just being, sitting with yourself, breathing slowly, letting the water settle. Even 5 minutes of this a day is not nothing. 5 minutes of genuine stillness, no phone, no content, no noise, just you and your breath, begins to change things. Over days it becomes easier. Over weeks you start to notice a difference in the way you think. Over months the effect becomes remarkable. You start to see situations more clearly, as if a fog has lifted. You start to catch your reactions before they happen and choose something different. You start to feel the difference between a thought that is just noise and a thought that is actually true and worth acting on. And there is something else that happens in the silence that is harder to describe, but just as real. In the quiet, you start to hear yourself, not the version of you that is shaped by what everyone else thinks, or what the world is telling you to want, or what your fears are saying, but the deeper version, the part of you that actually knows what matters to you, what you believe, what kind of person you want to be. That voice gets very quiet when the noise is loud, but it never fully disappears. And in the silence, it comes back. The clearest mind in any room is the most powerful mind in that room. Not because it knows the most, not because it is the fastest or the most educated, but because it sees clearly when everyone else is confused. It responds wisely when everyone else is reacting. It stays steady when everyone else is being moved around by emotion and noise. You cannot think your way to a clear mind. You cannot read your way there or achieve your way there. You get there only by practicing stillness, by choosing again and again to let the water settle, by deciding that your attention is valuable and that not everything deserves it. Train your mind to be still and watch how differently you move through the world. Pain is a teacher, not an enemy. The third teaching is the one that most people spend their entire lives running from, and because they spend so much energy running from it, they never get to discover what it was actually trying to give them. Pain, difficulty, discomfort, failure, loss. These words make most people flinch. We have been taught from the time we were very young that these things are bad, that they are signs something has gone wrong, that the goal of a good life is to have as little of them as possible, and so we build our lives around avoiding them. We stay in comfortable situations that are slowly suffocating us because at least they are familiar. We don't try new things because failing would hurt. We don't speak honestly because conflict is uncomfortable. We don't push ourselves because the effort is painful. We build a life that is soft and safe and small, and then we wonder why we feel so empty. Here is the truth that those people never found out. Pain is not your enemy. It never was. Pain is the most honest teacher you will ever meet in your entire life. Think about every person you have ever genuinely admired, not the ones who just look successful on the surface, not the ones with the nice car and the filtered photos, but the ones who have a real kind of strength, the ones who carry themselves with quiet confidence, the ones who can sit with hard things without breaking, the ones who have something in their eyes that tells you they have been through fire and come out the other side. I guarantee you, every single one of those people has a story of difficulty behind them. Every one of them has been through something that could have destroyed them, and chose, somewhere along the way, not to be destroyed. They did not become strong in spite of their pain. They became strong because of it, through it, inside it. There is an image that has been used for thousands of years to describe this: gold in fire. When you put gold in fire, you might think you are destroying it. The heat is extreme. The process is violent. But what actually happens is the opposite of destruction. The fire burns away everything that is not gold. All the impurities, all the things that were mixed in that were never supposed to be there. The fire removes them. And what comes out on the other side is not damaged gold. It is purer gold, stronger gold, more valuable than it was before it entered the fire. That is what difficulty does to a human being when they let it. When they don't run from it, when they don't numb themselves to it, when they don't spend all their energy pretending it is not happening. It burns away everything that was not truly them, the ego that needed things to go a certain way, the fear that was keeping them small, the false beliefs they had about themselves and the world. The shallow version of who they thought they were, all of it gets burned away, and what is left if they stay in the fire long enough, if they don't give up, is the real person, clearer, stronger, more alive. But here is the key. The fire only does this work if you stay present with it. If you run, if you immediately reach for the thing that numbs the pain, whether that is food or alcohol or scrolling or keeping yourself so busy that you never have to feel anything, the fire doesn't get to do its work. You come out of hard situations the same as you went in, just more tired and more afraid, because you never let the lesson land. So the practice, the real training, is this: the next time something painful happens, and something will, because that is just the nature of life, before you run, pause, even for just a moment. Sit with the discomfort instead of immediately escaping it, and in that moment of stillness, ask yourself a real question. Not, why is this happening to me? That question has no useful answer. It just leads you down a spiral of self-pity and helplessness. Instead, ask, what is this trying to show me? What part of me is being tested right now? What is being built inside me through this experience that I could not have built any other way? What would a stronger, wiser version of me do with this? These are not easy questions to ask when you are in pain. Nobody said this is easy, but they are the questions that change things. They shift you from being a victim of your circumstances to being a student of them. And a student always leaves with something. A victim just leaves with scars. And here is something that most people never realize about hard experiences. They give you something that nothing else can. They give you proof. Real, lived, undeniable proof that you can handle hard things. Every time you go through something difficult and come out the other side, even barely, even struggling the whole way, you have just proven something to yourself. You have shown yourself evidence that you are more capable than you thought, and that evidence builds over time into something called self-trust, the deep knowing that whatever comes, you will find a way through it. That self-trust is one of the rarest and most valuable things a person can have. You cannot buy it. You cannot borrow it from someone else. You cannot get it from a book or a video or a motivational quote. It can only be earned through experience, through going through real difficulty and choosing, in those moments, not to be finished by it. Pain is the price of entry into the version of yourself that you actually want to be. Nobody gets there another way. The mountain was not shaped by gentle breezes. It was shaped by storms. And it is beautiful because of them, because of every crack and ridge and layer that pressure and time carved into it. You are being carved too. Every hard thing you go through is part of that process. The question is not whether the difficulty will come. It will. The question is whether you will let it make you or let it break you. And the answer to that question is decided not in the big dramatic moments, but in the small quiet choice you make every time something hurts. The choice to stay, to learn, to grow, instead of turning and running. Let the fire do its work. What comes out on the other side is worth it. You are not your thoughts. The fourth teaching is perhaps the most spiritual of all, and at the same time, it is one of the most practical things you will ever learn about yourself. These two things are not opposites. The deepest spiritual truths are often the ones that change your everyday life the most. And this one, if you really let it land, will change the way you experience every single moment from here forward. Here it is, as simply as I can say it. You are not your thoughts. Read that again. You are not your thoughts. The thoughts that move through your mind, the worries, the fears, the judgments, the daydreams, the dark moments, the self-doubt, the anger, the plans, the memories. Those are not you. They are things that happen inside you. There is a difference, a very big difference, and most people never discover it. Most people are completely merged with their thoughts. They have no distance from them at all. A thought arrives and they immediately believe it. They follow it. They become it. If a thought says, "You are not good enough," they feel not good enough, not just for a moment, but deeply, as if it is a fact about who they are. If a thought says this is going to go badly, they brace themselves, they prepare for failure, they sometimes even use the very outcome the thought predicted. If a dark or shameful thought passes through their mind, they feel guilty and disturbed, as if having the thought means they are a dark or shameful person. But here's what nobody tells you. Every human being has thousands of thoughts every single day, including dark ones, including fearful ones, including thoughts that make no sense, and thoughts that contradict each other completely. The mind produces thoughts the way the ocean produces waves, constantly, automatically, without asking your permission. You did not choose most of the thoughts you had today. They just showed up. And yet most people treat every single one of those thoughts as if it is real, as if it is true, as if it is a direct message about who they are and what their life means. This is one of the deepest sources of human suffering, and it is also one that you have the power to change. Think about the sky. On any given day, clouds pass through the sky. Some are light and soft, some are heavy and dark, some bring storms. But the sky itself, the sky does not become the clouds. The sky is not disturbed by them. It does not panic when a dark cloud arrives. It does not hold on when a beautiful one passes. It simply remains what it is. Vast, open, present, while the clouds move through it and keep moving. You are the sky. Your thoughts are the clouds. And the moment you truly understand this, something shifts. Because now you are no longer at the mercy of every thought that passes through. You are the one watching them pass. This is what the practice of observation is about. Not forcing your mind to be empty. That is not possible and not the point. Not fighting your thoughts, or telling yourself you should not be thinking what you are thinking. Not trying to replace negative thoughts with positive ones by sheer willpower. All of those approaches keep you in a battle with your own mind, and that battle is exhausting and never fully won. Instead, the practice is simply to watch, to sit with yourself, even for just a few minutes, and observe what is moving through your mind without grabbing onto it. A thought about a problem at work arrives. You notice it. You don't dive into it and start solving it right now. You just note, there is thinking about work, and you let it pass. A feeling of anxiety rises. You don't immediately try to fix it or escape it. You note, there is anxiety, and you watch it. A self-critical thought comes. The kind that says you are failing, or that you should be doing better. You note, there is self-criticism, and you let it move through without building a whole story around it. What you are doing in those moments is something remarkable. You are stepping back from the thought. You are creating distance between yourself and what the mind is doing. And in that distance, in that small but real space, you discover something that changes everything. You are not the thought. You are the one noticing it, and the one who is noticing, that awareness, that quiet presence behind all the noise, that is closer to who you really are than any thought ever could be. Over time, as you practice this, several things start to happen. First, you stop believing every thought automatically. You develop a kind of healthy skepticism toward your own mind. Not cynicism. You are not dismissing yourself, but wisdom. You know that a thought is just a thought. It is not necessarily true. It is not necessarily a signal to act. It is not necessarily a reflection of who you are. Second, you stop being controlled by your emotions in the same way, because emotions follow thoughts. When you are no longer grabbed by every fearful or angry or despairing thought, the emotions that those thoughts would have triggered simply don't arise with the same intensity or the same hold on you. Third, and this is the part that surprises people most, you start to feel more peaceful. Not because life becomes easier, not because the thoughts stop coming, but because you are no longer at war with your own mind. There is a spiritual dimension to this that goes very deep. Many wisdom traditions across the world, across thousands of years, point to the same discovery. Underneath the constant movement of thoughts and emotions and reactions, there is something still, something that was never troubled to begin with, a part of you that is already whole, already peaceful, already free. You don't have to build it or earn it. You just have to stop identifying with everything that is covering it up. Your thoughts are not your prison. The belief that you are your thoughts, that is the prison. And the door has always been open. You just have to step back far enough to see it. You are not what you think. You are the one who thinks. And more than that, you are the one who can choose what to do with what arrives. That is not a small thing, that is everything. Discipline is the path to freedom. The fifth teaching is the one that sounds, at first, like the opposite of what you want. It sounds like restriction, like effort, like giving things up. And because of that, most people never look closely enough to see what it is actually offering them. Discipline is the path to freedom. I know how that sounds. The word discipline, for most people, carries a heaviness to it. It brings up images of rigid schedules and cold showers and denying yourself the things you enjoy. It sounds like something a strict parent would say or a military drill sergeant. It sounds like the opposite of freedom, like a cage, not a door. But I want you to think very carefully about what your life actually looks like when there is no discipline in it, when you do whatever you feel like doing in each moment, when you eat what you want when you want it, when you sleep when you feel like it, and wake up when you feel like it, when you avoid the hard conversations because they are uncomfortable, when you scroll through your phone instead of doing the thing you said you were going to do, when you skip the workout, skip the practice, skip the difficult work, again and again, because in the moment, not doing it feels better than doing it. What does that life actually feel like from the inside? Not from the outside, from the inside. The truth is, it does not feel like freedom. It feels like being lost. It feels like low-level guilt that never quite goes away. It feels like knowing you are capable of more and watching yourself not reach for it. Day after day, it feels like being controlled, not by any person or any external force, but by your own impulses, by your moods, by whatever the strongest craving or the loudest fear is in any given moment. That is not freedom. That is just a different kind of cage, one that is harder to see because you built it yourself. Real freedom is something different. Real freedom is walking into a difficult situation and knowing, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing that you have the strength to handle it because you have been training. Real freedom is waking up in the morning and feeling respect for yourself because you kept the promises you made to yourself yesterday. Real freedom is not being at the mercy of every mood that moves through you, every craving that calls for your attention, every fear that tells you to stop. Real freedom is being the one in charge of yourself, the master of your own actions, your own attention, your own life. And that kind of freedom has exactly one path to it: discipline. Not dramatic, all or nothing discipline, not the kind where you completely overhaul your life in a single weekend and then collapse back into your old habits 2 weeks later. That kind of approach almost never works because it is built on motivation, and motivation is a feeling, and feelings come and go. You cannot build a life on a feeling that will not always be there. Real discipline is quieter than that. It is built in small, repeated choices, the kind that nobody else sees, the kind that do not feel significant in the moment but that add up. over months and years into something that cannot be ignored. It is waking up at the same time every morning, even on the days when every part of you wants to stay in bed, not because waking up early is magical by itself, but because you are practicing something. You are practicing the ability to do what you decided to do, regardless of how you feel in the moment. You are building the muscle of following through, and that muscle, once built, works in every area of your life. It is doing one hard thing every day that you do not want to do, one phone call you have been putting off, one difficult conversation you have been avoiding, 1 hour of focused work on something that matters instead of the easier, more comfortable distraction. One moment of honesty with yourself instead of the comfortable story you usually tell. One small act of choosing your long-term self over your short-term comfort. Every single day, it is keeping promises to yourself that no one else will ever know about. This one is important. Anyone can keep a promise when someone is watching. Anyone can perform discipline when there is an audience. The real test, the one that actually builds character, is the promise you keep when nobody would ever know if you broke it. The extra work you do when no one will see it. The choice you make in private that is consistent with who you say you want to be. These moments are the real building blocks of self-trust. And self-trust is the thing. It is the foundation underneath everything else. When you trust yourself, when you have real evidence, built from real experience, that you do what you say you will do, you move through the world differently. You stand differently. You make decisions more clearly. Because you are not second-guessing yourself at every turn. You take on challenges more willingly. Because you know from experience that you can handle hard things. You are not looking for someone else to validate you, because you have already validated yourself through your actions. There is also a spiritual dimension to discipline that most people miss entirely. When you practice discipline consistently, you are not just building habits or improving performance. You are purifying your will. You are strengthening the part of you that chooses, the deepest part, the part that decides what kind of person you are going to be. Every act of genuine self-discipline is a statement. It says, I am not controlled by my impulses. I am not at the mercy of how I feel today. I have decided who I am, and I act in accordance with that decision regardless of what my emotions are doing. That is not a small statement. Over time, repeated thousands of times in small, quiet moments, it becomes the story of your life. It becomes who you are. The cage that most people are living in is not built from the outside. It is built from the inside, one avoided hard thing at a time, one broken promise to themselves at a time, one moment of choosing comfort over growth at a time. And the way out of that cage is also built from the inside, one small act of discipline at a time. Freedom is not waiting for you somewhere out there, in better circumstances or a different life. It is on the other side of the hard thing you are avoiding right now. Start there. Start small. And don't stop. Silence speaks louder than any word. The sixth teaching is about something that the world we live in has almost completely forgotten. In a time when everyone has a platform, when every opinion gets published, and every reaction gets shared and every moment gets broadcast to an audience, the art of silence has become one of the rarest and most powerful things a person can possess. Let's start by looking at two kinds of people, because you have met both of them and you know exactly what I am talking about. The first kind of person reacts to everything. Every insult gets a response. Every challenge pulls them into a fight. Every provocation lands exactly where it was intended. Someone says something critical about them, and they immediately defend themselves, loudly and at length. Someone disagrees with them, and they cannot let it go. A situation does not go the way they expected, and they make sure everyone around them knows how they feel about it. This person is often smart, often passionate, often genuinely capable, but they are never fully in control of themselves because they are always being moved. Every external event is pulling them somewhere. They are, without realizing it, living at the mercy of whatever happens to them next. The second kind of person is different. This person is still, not cold, not distant, not emotionally shut down, but still. They hear the insult and do not rise to it. They see the trap and walk past it without acknowledgement. In the middle of a chaotic situation, When everyone around them is reacting and escalating and getting louder, this person is somehow calm, not performing calm, actually calm. They speak when they choose to speak, not when their emotions push them to. And when they do speak, what they say carries a weight that the first person's words never do. Because restraint gives words their power, frequency removes it. This person is very hard to manipulate, very hard to destabilize, because the tools that people usually use to control others, provocation, criticism, pressure, drama, none of them work on someone who simply does not take the bait. You cannot win a game against someone who refuses to play. You cannot move someone who is not moved. Now think about this honestly. Which of these two people are you most of the time? And which one would you rather be? Most people, if they are truthful with themselves, are closer to the first, not because they are weak, but because nobody ever taught them the practice of silence. Nobody ever showed them that not responding is a response, that stillness is a strategy, that the most powerful move in many situations is no move at all. There is a saying that has been passed down through many traditions: speak only when your words improve upon the silence. This is not just advice about conversation. It is a philosophy of engagement. It means that before you react, before you respond, before you insert yourself into a situation, ask whether your involvement actually makes things better or just make you feel better in the moment, because those two things are very often not the same. When you react to a provocation, you feel better for about 3 seconds. You gotta say your piece. You defended yourself. You showed that you are not someone to be dismissed. But what actually happened? You gave the other person exactly what they wanted. You showed him exactly where your buttons are. You spent your energy on something that gave you nothing in return. And you lost a little of the control that you needed. When you stay silent, when you feel the pull to react and choose stillness instead, something different happens. The person who was trying to provoke you gets nothing. The situation does not escalate. And inside yourself, you feel something that is much better than the 3-second relief of reacting. You feel the quiet satisfaction of having been in command of yourself. That feeling is not loud, it does not announce itself, but it is real, and it builds over time into something solid. Now here is the deeper level of this teaching, because this is not just about managing conflict or being strategic in difficult situations. It goes further than that. When you stop reacting to everything around you, when you stop filling every moment with a response, an opinion, a comment, a defense, something starts to happen inside the silence you create. You begin to hear something that was always there but could never be heard over the noise. Something quiet, something underneath all the thoughts and emotions and reactions. Call it intuition, call it your inner knowing, call it the deeper part of you that sees things your reactive mind cannot see. This quiet voice, and it is always quiet, it never shouts, is one of the most valuable things you have access to. It is the part of you that knows when something is wrong even before you can explain why. The part that knows when a situation is not serving you. The part that knows what you actually believe, separate from what you have been told to believe. The part that can feel the right direction even when your logical mind is confused. But it can only be heard in the silence. And if you are always reacting, always responding, always filling every moment with external noise or internal chatter, you will never hear it. You will make decisions based on your loudest emotion rather than your deepest wisdom. You will be moved by the world rather than moving through it with intention. The practice here is not complicated, but it requires real commitment. Start noticing when you feel the urge to react in conversations, in situations, on social media, in your own mind, and choose, just once, to pause. Instead, to wait, to sit with the silence for a moment before deciding what to do. In that pause, ask, does this situation actually require my response? And if it does, what response comes from the clearest, calmest part of me, not from the part that is triggered and wants to protect itself? Over time, this changes the way you carry yourself. You become someone who is present but not reactive, engaged but not pulled around, strong but not loud about it. And people feel that. They may not be able to explain what is different about you, but they feel it. There is a gravity to a person who is genuinely still, a trustworthiness, a depth. The world is full of noise right now. Everyone is talking. Everyone is reacting. Everyone is trying to be seen and heard and responded to. In that environment, the person who is silent, genuinely, purposefully, peacefully silent, stands out in a way that no amount of noise ever could. Be that person. Speak less, mean more, and in the quiet spaces you create, listen for the voice that has been trying to reach you all along. Every day is a new beginning. And also, your last, the seventh teaching is the one that, when it truly lands, changes everything about how you move through a single ordinary day. Not just the big moments, not just the crises or the celebrations. The ordinary Tuesday morning, the quiet drive home, the conversation with someone you see every day and have stopped really seeing. This teaching changes all of that, if you let it. There is an ancient practice. It has existed in different forms across different cultures and different centuries, but the core of it is always the same. The practice is simply this. Remember that you will die. Remember that this day, this specific unrepeatable day, will end. Remember that the people around you will not always be there. Remember that the version of you sitting here right now, in this moment, will never exist again in exactly this way. Remember that life is not a rehearsal. There is no later version of today where you get to go back and do it differently. Now, I want to be very careful here because this idea can be heard in two completely different ways. The first way is dark, morbid, heavy, the kind of thought that makes you feel depressed or anxious or afraid. That is not what this teaching is about. If that is what you are feeling right now, stay with me, because the second way of hearing this is the opposite of dark. It is the most clarifying, most awakening, most life-giving perspective a person can carry. When you genuinely understand that this day will not come again, you stop treating it carelessly. You stop moving through it half asleep, half present, waiting for some future moment when your real life begins. You stop saving your full attention for later, when things are more settled, when you are less busy, when conditions are better, because you understand, in a way that goes beyond just knowing it intellectually, that later is not guaranteed to anyone. Think about the last time you were with someone you love. Really think about it. Were you fully there? Or were you partially somewhere else? On your phone, in your thoughts, thinking about something that needed to be done, waiting for the conversation to end, so you could get back to whatever felt more urgent. Most people, if they are honest, spend most of their time with the people they love, only partially present. And the painful thing is that they do this because they assume there will be more time, more dinners, more conversations, more chances to really show up. And sometimes that is true. And sometimes, without any warning at all, it is not. The person who carries the awareness of endings does not take the ordinary moments for granted the way most people do. They know that this dinner, this laugh, this quiet moment sitting together, it matters. Not because something dramatic is happening, but because it is real, and it is now, and it will not happen again in exactly this way. And so they are there for it. Fully, not perfectly. Nobody is perfectly present all the time, but genuinely trying to be where they are, with who they are with, doing what they are doing. This awareness also clears out a tremendous amount of noise from your life. When you live with the understanding that your time is genuinely limited, not in a panicked way, but in a clear-eyed way, the things that do not actually matter start to fall away naturally. The petty arguments that you were about to spend 3 days being upset about, the opinions of people who do not really know you, the time spent consuming things that leave you feeling empty, the energy spent worrying about things that will never actually happen. When you hold the preciousness of your time clearly in your mind, you become much less willing to waste it, not because you are afraid of dying, but because you are genuinely in love with living. Now here is the other half of this teaching, and this is the part that catches people by surprise, because it seems to contradict the first half, but it does not. It completes it. Every morning is a new beginning. Whatever happened yesterday, it is finished. The mistake you made, the thing you said that you wish you could take back, the way you handled a situation badly, the version of yourself that showed up and fell short of who you want to be, that day is closed. It is done. You cannot go back into it. And because you cannot go back into it, you do not have to carry it forward into today, as if it defines you. Most people do not live this way. Most people drag yesterday into today, and last week into this week, and last year into this year. They build an identity out of their failures and their regrets, as if every bad day they have ever had is permanent evidence of who they are. They tell themselves stories. I am the kind of person who always messes this up. I am the kind of person who never follows through. I am the kind of person who cannot change. And then they live inside those stories as if they are facts, not realizing that the story is a choice, that you can put it down. The sun that rises this morning has never risen before. This is not a poetic idea. It is literally true. This specific morning, with everything that exists inside it, has never existed before and will never exist again. And the person who wakes up to meet it does not have to be the same person who went to sleep last night, not in any dramatic, sudden way, but in the quiet, simple way of choosing, again, fresh, today, to be a little more of who you want to be, to try one more time, to begin again. These two truths, held together, create something remarkable. On one side, this moment matters more than you know, so be here for it fully. On the other side, whatever you did before thick, his moment does not have to follow you here, so let it go and begin again. One truth fills each moment with weight and meaning. The other truth keeps each moment light enough to actually live in. Together, they describe exactly the right relationship with time, not paralyzed by regret over the past, not anxious about the future, fully here, in this day, giving it what it deserves, which is everything you have, while also knowing that if yesterday was not your best, today is a clean page, and you are holding the pen. This is how you stop sleepwalking through your life, not through some dramatic awakening, not through a crisis that forces you to suddenly appreciate what you have, though sometimes that is how people get there, but through this quiet daily practice of remembering that today is both precious and unrepeatable, and that you are lucky enough to be alive inside it. Show up for it. All of it. The hard parts and the easy parts. The beautiful ordinary moments and the difficult ones. Show up the way you would show up if you knew, without any doubt, that this was worth showing up for. Because it is. Every single day, it is. The ultimate win. Becoming someone who cannot be broken. This is the 8th teaching, the final one. And it is where everything we have talked about, every piece, every practice, every idea, comes together into a single picture, a picture of a kind of person, a kind of life. The ultimate destination of all this training. Let me describe this person to you. They are not perfect. They are not immune to difficulty. Hard things happen to them, the same as they happen to everyone. They have bad days. They feel pain. They make mistakes. They face situations they did not choose, and outcomes they did not want. In all of those ways, they are completely ordinary. Life does not spare them anything. But here is what is different about this. None of it breaks them. Not permanently. Not in the deep place, the core place. The place where what you are made of actually lives. They bend. Sometimes they bend a long way, but they do not break. And every time something hard comes, and they have been through enough hard things now to know that something hard always comes, there is a part of them that is steady, quiet, almost like a low hum underneath all the chaos, a knowing that they will be okay, not because they can see exactly how, but because they have been through things before and found their way. And they trust, genuinely trust, with the kind of trust that is not hope but evidence that they will find their way through this too. That quality, that unbreakable steadiness, that is the ultimate win, not the achievement on the outside, not the status, the success, the applause, the accumulation of things. Those are fine. There is nothing wrong with them. But they are not the ultimate win, because they can all be taken away. Every external thing can be taken away. The only thing that cannot be taken from you is what you have built inside. And here is the most important thing I want you to understand about how that inner strength is built. It is not built in the big dramatic moments. It is not built in the crisis, when everyone is watching and you rise to the occasion spectacularly. Those moments matter, but they are not where the real building happens. The real building happens in the small moments that no one sees. It happens when you are tired and you do the thing anyway, when you are hurt and you choose not to lash out, when you are afraid and you take the step forward regardless, when you are disappointed and you decide to learn from it instead of being finished by it, when you are alone with no audience and you still choose to be the person you said you wanted to be. Every single one of those ends, small, quiet, unwitnessed, is a layer. And layers, added one on top of another over months and years, become something that no single storm can knock down. Think about it this way. A tree that has grown slowly, over many years through different seasons, through summer heat and winter cold and storms and drought, has roots that go deep, very deep. And when a big wind comes, that tree bends, it moves, but the roots hold. Because every difficult season it survived added depth to those roots. Every challenge that did not destroy it made the foundation stronger. That is what you are building. With every choice that aligns with who you want to be, you are deepening your roots. And the deeper they go, the less anything on the surface can truly threaten you. Now here is the spiritual truth at the center of all of this. And I do not want to rush past it because it is the most important thing I have said today. When you do this work, the real inner work of training yourself, something happens that goes beyond just becoming stronger or more resilient or more disciplined. You become more yourself, more fully, authentically, genuinely yourself, because most of what covers up who we truly are, the fear, the ego, the need for approval, the habits built out of avoidance, the masks worn to protect the soft places, all of that starts to fall away when you commit to this kind of inner training. And what is underneath is something remarkable, something that was always there, waiting. There is something in every human being, something deep and quiet and real, that is already reaching toward wholeness, toward truth, toward a way of living that feels aligned, genuine, peaceful. You have felt it. In those rare moments when everything felt right, when you were completely present, completely honest, completely yourself, when you were doing something that mattered and doing it fully. That feeling, that sense of rightness, is not an accident, and it is not luck. It is a glimpse of who you actually are when everything false has been stripped away. And the work we have been talking about today, all 8 teachings, is the work of getting there. Not in one sudden moment of transformation, but slowly, day by day, choice by choice. You will not be perfect at this. That needs to be said clearly, because the expectation of perfection is one of the things that makes people give up before they ever really begin. You will have days where you react when you should have been still, days where you break the promise you made to yourself, days where the old habits come back loudly and you follow them, days where you feel like none of this is working and you are not changing at all. Those days are part of the process. They are not evidence that you have failed. They are evidence that you are human and that growth is not a straight line. The only thing that matters is that you return. After the bad day, you return to the practice. After the mistake, you return to the intention. After the step backward, you take another step forward. The person who keeps returning, no matter how many times they stumble, no matter how many times they stumble, no matter how slow the progress feels, that person wins. Not occasionally, not under perfect conditions, every time, because the game they are playing is not a game of perfection. It is a game of persistence, and persistence applied in the right direction over enough time cannot be stopped. That is what it means to always win in every situation of life. Not that every situation goes the way you wanted, not that you never suffer or struggle or fail, but that no situation, no matter how hard, no matter how unexpected, no matter how painful, gets to be the end of your story, because you have become the kind of person who cannot be broken, who bends but whole, leads, who falls and rises, who keeps going not because the path is easy but because what is being built along the way is worth everything. That person is who this training is for. That person is who you are becoming. Every day, every choice, every small quiet moment of deciding to be a little more awake, a little more honest, a little more true to what you know is right. All of it is moving you toward that. Keep going. You are closer than you think. Let's bring it all together. You have 8 tools now. 8 ways to train yourself to always win. You know that true winning starts inside you, not in the world. You know that most of your suffering comes from fighting what you cannot control, and that the moment you stop, you get your power back. You know that a clear mind sees further, decides better, and responds with more wisdom. You know that pain is not your enemy. It is the very thing that builds the parts of you that no one can break. You know that you are not your thoughts, that you are the awareness behind them, and that this awareness gives you the power to choose how you live. You know that discipline is not a cage, it is the only road to real freedom. You know that silence and stillness are not weaknesses. They are the quiet weapons of the truly strong. You know that each day matters completely, and that each morning is a chance to begin again. And you know that the ultimate goal, the real win, is becoming a person who cannot be broken. Not by circumstances, not by other people, not by time. This is the work. It is not glamorous. It will not trend on social media. No one may ever notice you doing it, but you will notice. And slowly, day by day, year by year, you will become someone that you are genuinely proud of. Someone who lives with clarity and purpose and peace. That is the only victory worth chasing. If this changed something in you, subscribe. There is more where this came from.